Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah rabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Alhamdulillah, assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. As you'll hear again, right from as Ustaz, welcome, and we are very fortunate again to be back again. Inshallah, okay, with more great topics. And since during the fortnight, and you guys have been with us, inshallah, right? And this will be a 30-minute segment where we will ask some pertaining questions for with regards to the challenges that some of our Muslim brothers and sisters face, right? When they live in Europe, specifically, inshallah, right? Before we begin into the topic itself, I would love to bring in, right, our guest speaker, inshallah, to share with us about the challenges, okay, in Belgium. Like even last week we have Azra, but this time around we have Nicola going to share with us, inshallah. Nicola, Assalamualaikum warahmatullah. You can unmute yourself. You can unmute yourself.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, very clear. Alhamdulillah.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I prepared some of the questions that we received.
Okay.
If you don't mind. But I think one of the first question was, is it important to tell people that we have converted to Islam within the European context? So that was the first question. So I think what I see is that in Europe, the religion is more like private matter and seen a bit as, side in a way. So it's not something that people usually ask or broadcast. But for me personally, if somebody asks or requires it, for example, for regarding halal food or not drinking, then there's no problem. People will understand. All right, they know. I think they know. But one challenge about this, which is a bit, let's say, more pronounced with older people, older generation, is that they usually don't see a point for religion, right? It's like backdated, and when I say that, it's any religion, not specific to Islam. So they see that as backdated, and one thing for them is that any rule they are kind of against it. So they don't see a point of having a rule, in life, kind of like, okay, I want to do something, I will do it, and any restriction or any rule is something that to have their personal freedom. So that's a bit of the challenge, because not only about the rules at the first level, but that the religion itself, any rule coming from there for them doesn't make sense in a way, if I can say that, because the religion is not something center and important or at the center of their thought. So that's one of the challenge, I would say, in this matter. Related to that, I think there was a second question about challenges, which are related to how should converts behave in practicing, such as going to mosque, which permissible food to eat, attending family religious events. So I think this one is linked to the first topic. I say it's sometimes it can take some long time to make happen. That, for example, we don't drink, and some foods we don't eat. So, for example, so it depends, but I had some experience with my grandparents where they will still offer, because it still didn't like register, or why we don't drink, for example, anymore. So it's that can take some time. The second part, I think, is for the religious events. This one, like I mentioned before, religion is not really central and very seen as very important. So any personal experience, I'm talking for my experience. The family is not very religious, so when I say a gathering, usually if it's around certain religious holiday, or for them the meaning is not, it doesn't religious anymore. It's more like, okay, an occasion to gather, and because everybody is on leave, for example, so it's a easy date. Or so that's one example for this. But for specifically, I think there was also one question about, for example, funerals. So this one, when I was when my grandparents passed away, then I went back to Europe, and I attended the funeral. In terms of first thing is to be there for my family. And yeah, when I say attended, I think for one of my grandparents, they had a church ceremony, so I just went in and didn't perform anything specific, to be there beside my parents and my family. But yeah, that's one thing. And I think one point as well for this is that for me it's more like, okay, like I say, family support, personal support, and also when I was thinking about it, is that like in a way we represent the Muslims, right, the faiths. And if no, I don't go to my grandparents
The church.
or to their funeral, that would be shine a bad light on the religion itself as well, to say, hey, why you cannot even come and attend this and support your grand or your family. So that's one point that I wanted to raise.
Inshallah. Okay. How about we allow our Ustaz to address some of your issues that you have mentioned?
Yes.
Actually, it's a very great question coming from you, Nicola. Right. For those who have just tuned in, Alhamdulillah, thank you for coming in. I would love to see more and more people joining us. This is a different opportunity, right? This actually, I would say, different from what we are having. We tested on Zoom. Initially, we tested on StreamYard. So we see how it goes, whether this is much more personalized, and we will stick to it, inshallah. Okay. Without further ado, I would love to call Ustaz. Assalamualaikum, Ustaz.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi ta'ala.
Alhamdulillah. How are you, Ustaz? 2 weeks I've not seen you.
Right.
Okay, inshallah, Ustaz. We will, inshallah, I will just give you an overview about the topics. It's something related to last 2 weeks question. It's an elaboration, and now it comes from people staying in Europe itself, coming from Nicola, right? Okay, so some of these topic going to cover about perspective on religion, especially Islam, where I think you have heard earlier that it's not favorable that we're used to, especially religion in Singapore, making comparison. Being a secular country, okay, some countries actually separate religion from the public. Okay,
Right.
so this could be an issue. Okay, so when our European, for example, spouses convert to Islam, it may run into some risks, can be shunned away from their existing circle. I'm sure this is some of the challenges they have faced. right? So example means to losing even their business account at work. So the question is it important, right, to tell people that they have converted to Islam? Ustaz.
Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah. Of course, Islam is not like others where you have to be carrying yourself. You know, like I mentioned before, the problem with us is this, that what become a stigma is due to because of we want to have some kind of an identity. You know, like in Asia, as you can see, if you don't wear this white hat, you don't wear baju kurung, I believe your wife don't even want to call me as an ustad. If I were to be dressing up like yourself, huh? Nico, you can ask your wife now, see whether she wants to call me as an ustad or not. So that is the problem. You know, they label us as if like, you know, ustad have to have some kind of dress code. You know, so to my understanding from your question, is it important to tell people that they have converted to Islam? The answer is no. Okay? Not necessarily that you have to announce or even publish in the newspaper that you have become a Muslim. You want to still be using your name as Nicholas, please do so if you are in Europe, because they know you as Nicholas. And if you have other names, then if you want to try and introduce that name to the people, that is where they worry. You know, they're beginning to think that what has happened to you. You know, you maybe have been charmed. Now you must understand the exposure that the European get about Islam. And even some of the Muslims in different part of Europe are not showing what Islam is supposedly to be. You see, that's where the negativity towards Islam becomes a stigma, you know, becomes something that is going to be like a big issue. You know, the moment you call yourself Azra, Israel, maybe Israel more close to the European name, not so much, you know. But if you have like Aida, you have like Ibrahim, then there's going to be a problem. Even Muhammad, I was told they are very particular about Muslim having the name of Muhammad. You know, so I don't know. You know, I don't think so that you need to make an announcement. You know, because it can they will be able to identify you whether you're Muslim or not. The moment you rejected alcohol, the moment you rejected the food that they ate, they know that okay, you must be coming from this, because this is what they heard and this is what they think Islam is all about. So this is again the problem. You know, I remember when I was a staff in Darul Arqam, you know, some even like insist that before even you convert, you must go for the circumcision. And that is not part of the, you know, the procedure for conversion, that you have to circumcise. Although most of European, they have done that before even they became a Muslim, or it's not about being Muslim or not, but it's about hygiene, and they have done it, right? But in Islam, you don't have to make an announcement. You cannot be telling everybody that I'm a Muslim, I have circumcised, and I mean, there is no, you see, if you understand the prayer, that's why in the prayer we have what is said, a pledge. Right? A pledge that we said, Inna salati wa nusuki wa mahayaya wa mamati lillahi rabbil alamin. La sharika lahu wa bidzalika umirtu wa ana minal muslimin. So a Muslim is a person that has faith in God. Full stop. It's not about the dress. Okay, the dress is where the culture comes in. And the beauty of Islam, it does not destroy, because Islam is a religion of constructive. It constructs. It's not destruct. But then, unfortunately, you want to have your own dress code so that people will know, you know, who you are, whether you're Malay, I mean, during the early days, that's what happened, especially during festive season. You will find the Malay will wear the baju kurung, you know, songkok, the black songkok, and that's how they want to be identified as being Muslims. But that is not what Islam is all about. Nothing that is written on the forehead to say that I am a Muslim, isn't it? But like I said, it is something that people will automatically, especially in the Western world, maybe in some, not all, in some they are exposed. They are exposed already. It's just like, like in UK, we heard about who is terrorizing Islam are the Muslim themselves. They want to Islamize everybody. I mean, you keep on forgetting that you are not in Saudi Arabia. You are in Europe. You must not be bothering other people's beliefs. Leave them, as the Quran mentioned, lakum dinukum waliyadin. The clear demarcation line, or rather the clear what is being said there, lakum dinukum waliyadin, you with your faith, I with my faith. But we can still sit together and chat and do all the things that what we think is right, as what you were saying just now. Even some European, they don't care, so we also don't have to be caring about them. They don't care. Okay, fine, that's good, okay, you with your belief, I with my belief. You don't come and talk about my belief is nonsense, I also will not say about your belief is nonsense. That is supposedly to be like that. But the problem with us is, you want to be exposing, you want to be making an announcement for everybody to know, then you are in trouble yourself. Especially, if you're in a society, they totally doesn't want, they don't care, whatever faith that you are believing in, that is your problem. I'm not interested.
Mashallah. Ustaz, just because I'm not wearing sungkut today, that's why you emphasize on that. Okay. Okay, I love that part. I just want to maybe capture certain essence what you have captured, Ustaz. You mentioned that you don't have to change your dressing. Probably for the men, not so obvious, Ustaz. But for the ladies, I'm sure if they want to progress, right, they may have some significant change in their dressing. What do you think, Ustaz?
Yes, you can change, and believe me, there is a differences of opinion among Muslim scholars pertaining to the headdress. Okay, if you trace the Arabs during the ignorant, or rather the dark ages, right? They don't have anything like what you saw today. They put on. I mean, they are the one that doesn't like to have anything to cover their hair. It's always it's the understanding for the women that their hair is their crown. So they need to expose it, this way, that way, or whatever way, it's up to them. It becomes an issue because of there was differences of opinion among the scholars whether is hair part of aurat or not. This is where the differences comes in. Aura means that it is one of the organ, or rather one of the parts that is going to arouse if it touches men. So in Shafi'i school, they have agreed to say that, okay, three things will not make men aroused and it will not become haram, which is the hair, the fingernails, and your teeth. Your tooth. Because these three is very painful if it touches men. So definitely it will not arouse you. So they conclude. So because of there is a differences of opinion, so that's why they cover the hair for that reason, because beauty comes from there also. Otherwise, if you are in Europe, if you have to remove it, please do so. Please do so. It's not haram, because you see, that's why I said you need to understand the legal aspect of Islam is interchangeable. Interchangeable. It suits the situation where you are for whatever reason, because the moment there is a threatening, right? There's a threat if you were to be wearing, like what we saw, in the television, in some part of Paris, or I mean France, they will pull your headgear, right, to ask you to remove it. So that is considered under daruriya, under the essential. Okay, the things that are vital and indispensable for life and and existent and constitute the ultimate higher objective, which is the maqasid of Islamic law. They occupy the highest position in the hierarchical order of Islamic values. So in Islam, we have what is known as ad-daruriya al-khamsa, which is necessary to human life. So these five things needs to be protected, and this have to be understood, which is protections of the religion, how to protect, and then protections of life. If there is going to be a life in danger, so in the case of the headgear, there is a life in danger there. In some parts of the world, isn't it? So you need to remove it. It's allowed. It's considered as daruriya. It's the essential. This is something that you need to leave. Because faith is inside. Okay? Faith, if you talk about Faith, right, it's inside. You can't see. Right? Only when you have practiced it, then you saw, oh, he's a Muslim because he prayed. Otherwise, you won't know, right? Especially like Nicholas doesn't look like what Tempe or whatever. He's still a white man. If you understand where I'm coming from, isn't it? So even Israel doesn't look like a local. It could be like Myanmar. It could be like other races, right? So it's a question of, in Southeast Asia, maybe it's easy. You can just put on the so-called, people can, even in China, I was told, Ida is with us today, you can ask her, because her husband, they used to work in China. So the Chinese Muslims are wearing the knitted white hat. And that is just to identify, okay, this is my group, this is my gang, but this is not what Islam is all about. It's not the dress code. So you need to understand, how the system works. And the beauty of coming back to class is where we are able to explore the components of Islamic law. What are the components of Islamic law? Okay. Under the fiqh ibadah, under the act of worship, right, we have the pillars of Islam, which is the prayer, fasting, and then the alms giving, zakat, and the pilgrimage. But under fiqh mu'amalat, under the other division, we have many, and this is some of the things that you are discussing, about family law, which is known as al-ahwal al-shakhsiyah. Then we have al-ahkam al-mu'amalah, commercial transaction. Then we have fiqh al-i'tisad, management of finance of the state. And then we have al-ahkam al-qada wa turuq al-ithbat, administration of justice. And then you have also al-ahkam al-zimni wal-musta'min. This is where we talk about the rights of non-Muslim in an Islamic state, if they are in an Islamic state. So this is what happened here. If you read the history, the Muslim in the Islamic, the non-Muslim that in the Islamic state, like in Saudi Arabia, like in Pakistan, or in places where they declare their state law is Islamic law, they are not given their right. Okay, they are not given their right. And now, when it happens to us, then we demand that we should be given our right too. So this is, I think, something is wrong there, right? So be very careful about these things, So does that answer to your question?
Alhamdulillah. Okay, Ustaz. Let's dive in. I think I want to hear your answers towards just now what Nicola have mentioned. Okay, right. So regards to all this, right, Ustaz? So technically, how did they, all these converts behave, especially when in practicing Islam, such as going to the mosque, choosing permissible food, right, in front of others, and attending family religious event. Okay, so example, turning down non-halal food in front of families and friends, while still being respectful. In some culture, they will insist of obliging. Right. So, what would be your take on this?
Okay. How they believe in practicing Islam, such as going to the mosque. Okay, if you are in a country where the distance for you to be traveling is too far, and then it's definitely you won't be able to make it on time. Like an example, we are Singapore. We want to be doing our Friday prayer at Sultan Abu Bakar Mosque, which is in Johor, just right after the causeway. This is something that is absurd, isn't it? You know? How could you be able to reach there in time? Because it is not just you fly and that's it. You land in Sultan Abu Bakar compound. You need to go through the immigration checkpoint and all these other things. So these are about time consuming, right? And Islam, as I said, the basis of Islam is being made very clear. La yukallifullahu nafsan illa wus'aha. So this verse clearly tell us that there is no burden, in matter of religion. So in situation like that, you have the alternative of like now, even in COVID, right? This COVID-19 situation, suddenly there was a change of the Friday prayer ruling. We can make the announcement, what they call it, for the Friday prayers at 12:50, which is supposedly to be the afternoon, the noon prayer supposedly to be at one something, right? And it was because of the COVID, and we have certain rules, certain SOP that we have to meet up to. So it's allowed to make an announcement early and then does the prayer later. So the same goes if you're in Europe. If you can reach the mosque in time, because you need to follow the time over there. You can't be following Saudi Arabia. I do not know what is the time difference in Europe and in Saudi Arabia. But even for us also, we can't be following Saudi Arabia. So we have to follow the nearby Islamic countries. We are very fortunate because everything here is like we have been compromising with other religion, so we have no issue about that, right? But for Europe, of course, you can't. So if you cannot reach there in time, do not go for the Friday prayer. Just do the Zohar prayer, and it's not a sin.
Yep.
It's not a sin, even if I mean, only during maybe during your off day, or uh, at times where it is more easier for you to reach out or to arrive at the mosque, then it's okay. Otherwise, no. Right? You can just go to, perform your Zuhur prayer. Like in Singapore also, sometimes because of we are engaged, due to meetings sometimes, I am also working closely with the government here in Singapore. So most of their meeting, has an IRCC member, MAEC member. It's normally during the prayer time.
Mm.
So we just quietly, say, excuse me, I need to go to the restroom. Then find one corner and do the prayer.
Okay, Ustaz, how about the food then? How do you actually turn down non-halal food that was being offered to you, without being disrespectful, Ustaz? Maybe what's your advice?
I was in that kind of situation. I didn't go as far as Europe, but I went to countries like Thailand, very, very also difficult. Not in Bangkok, but in northern part of Thailand, you will find very difficult to find Muslim food. So in situation like that, it's either we switch to, of course, when you're invited to somebody's house, uh, the best way to say that you don't want, right, is to say that I don't eat this. This is more respectful, right? Rather than say, oh, no, 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 I'm a Muslim. Don't you know I'm Muslim? I cannot eat this. No, this is not how it's. We are in that kind of situation here sometime in Singapore, especially during others believe their festive season, like Chinese New Year. During the early days, the most of the Chinese don't know, that we can't take, anything that they serve, no pork, no lard. They think that, some Muslims will just eat. But for those who are rigid, so for those who are, they just want to protect their pietyness, so they will refrain from even eating something if they are not too sure what are the ingredients. And pertaining to food, the only thing that Islam prohibited is pork. That is clear. If you are talking about explicit, right? Other than that, and as I mentioned before, you can refer to the book of Yusuf Qardawi. If you have no knowledge whether that meat, and these are referring to like beef, can be a beef, can be a lamb, can be anything else, right? As long as they are meat, but you don't know how it was slaughtered, whether in the Islamic manner or not. So you just say Bismillah and eat.
Okay, Ustaz, what is this is from your family members? Let's say, for example, you used to eat this food, right? Why do you refuse now? You know, because you talk about reverts, right? Maybe they used to eat that food.
I understand.
That's right. Yeah.
I understand. Of course, they know that the challenge is always pork. All right, they will challenge you to ask to show that if you are sincere towards the family member, eat pork, eat whatever they offer you. Right? Yeah. I mean, of course, Islam doesn't teach you to be rude to them. You know, you can if you can avoid, you avoid. Find excuses and say, no, recently, since I came back from Singapore, I've been there for a while. I got some issue if I eat this meat. I mean, try avoid talking about the religion. It's not about because they don't understand what is halal and what is haram. If you were to tell them this is prohibited, then to them it's like, since when? You've been eating you have been eating this all the while. Now only you said it's haram. So you see, it's very difficult to explain. So, but of course there are references, book, and you can't be quarreling over dinner or over lunch. Just to tell them this is sick. This is something. This is no good for your body. I mean, it's not the time for you to be discussing with them if you're being cornered in such a manner that you have no alternative but to try and please them. So my sincere advice to you is to try and find excuse. I am a Muslim. Even some some of the local dishes I don't take. I don't take. I means I don't take. I don't care. Some people when they invite me, they get they get very upset. For you so sombong lah, you don't eat like certain fish. I don't eat, especially if it's like fishy, right? If there's a fishy smell, oh sorry, salam alaikum, I won't eat. Salmon, I won't eat. So I have that habit with me. I carry that with me. So it's not so much of a problem, even if I were to be in the hotel whereby they don't serve halal food. Okay, what I go normally for will be the Western food. It's a non-halal restaurant, but I will choose the Western food. So I mean, this is based on my own personal experience. So you can try that kind of option. I mean, my advice, I strongly will advise you, do not say anything about this is prohibited.
Inshallah. All right. Okay, please take note on what Ustaz don't eat if you invite Ustaz over. Okay, Ustaz, by the way, the word that we are looking for is actually zawal. Alhamdulillah, yeah. Okay, that's what we're talking about. Okay, Ustaz, I think time is running very, very fast. I would, wish that we can have more time if you 1 hour, versus 30 minutes, because there are a lot of questions to ask you. And this is another one interesting question. We take one more, Ustaz, one more.
Sure.
Yeah, because I do not want to take time for those who are just tuned in. They just want to have, maybe they have other things that they want to do later after this event. This is another interesting question which I believe that need to be addressed. Okay, so the question is, a European Muslim reverts spouses faces the death of non-Muslim. Okay,
Okay.
maybe parents or family. Okay, so the deceased may have to undergo a Christian funeral. Okay. But the problem is there is no other family members involved. So the question is, can this European Muslim spouse put his parent through a Muslim ceremony? That's why I say interesting, Ustaz. I never heard this before. I have no clue if this is going to happen in Singapore, but I think this would a real challenges that they face today. I'll put some of the question for the rest to see in the chat. Inshallah. Cheers.
Okay. If in a country, even in Singapore, I used to be working with some of the undertaker companies here in Singapore, and I'm willing to share with you. You will be very surprised to know even we have non-Muslims, non-believers, wants to be cleansed by our cremation company, or not cremation. What you call it, the undertaker companies. Non-Muslim. They are non-Muslim because they may have attended any of their friends who passed on, and they saw how we wash, how we shroud, and then how we bury. So they requested for this. It's a Muslim's company. What Janaza? What do you call it in English? Oh, sometimes it doesn't come to my.
Cascade, is it?
Yeah, the
Cascade.
Cascade company, right? Mostly, like the most popular here in Singapore will be the Muslim Cascade, Singapore Muslim Cascade. So they have attended into situation like that. So they will do the cleaning everything as has like the Muslim does, right? And then at the end of the day, they hand over the body to the family members. And what they do, whether they cremated it or they buried it, is none of our problem. So the same goes with the question that you said. If it is our parent and then we want to do it in and they are not Muslim, we want to do it in the Islamic manner, why not? If they allow, if they find that they are comfortable with, right? Because the problem with I'm not too sure what Europe, but most of these other religions here in Singapore, the one that normally buried quite long will be the Chinese, up to maybe a week, right? Some, and because of this, in they embalm the body, right? So for us, we don't keep the body that long, right? And the different again, most of European that I have attended some of these funeral, they dress up the date, like wearing a wedding, what do you call it, suit, they put on makeup onto the to the date, right? If this what they want, I mean it's fine, And then if they about the burial ground, we have situation here in Singapore during the early days of Singapore before Darul Arqam was established. Most of the revert here are being buried in the non-Muslims burial ground. That was before they get the AMLA, when that has been implemented, agreed that even for Chinese to be buried in the Islamic burial ground if they are Muslims. So after they came out with the conversion card, that's why the conversion card is very important for the local. And when you travel to most of the Islamic countries, they will recognize that, and you will be buried in accordance. And I think there was an incident here in Singapore where this elderly Chinese man was already been buried in the Chinese burial ground, and then they call Muiz and they managed to get back the body and hand it over to the Muslim, where he has been washed and shrouded and buried back again in Islamic burial ground. Right? So there is no issue. I've attended some of these funeral. In fact, I cannot be in everybody's funeral, of course. I try to convert the revert. I said, if anybody pass on, if you don't know what to do, summon me. I'll come down and I'll show to the non-Muslims that there is no harm for us to be there. So what happened was, one of my students, the father passed on. The father passed on. Father is a Christian, practicing Christian. So I came to the funeral, and we're very happy to see, and met with the wife and spoke to the wife, and I think there's no issue. But you don't see Muslim doing that. That is the problem. You don't see Muslim attending Chinese funeral, although some you may have planned in. In fact, we are asked to. If your neighbor is a non-Muslim, if they pass on, it becomes an obligation that you must attend. You must send your condolences to them, ta'aziyah, to the family members. So even if it's your own family members, please not worry. Please do not worry. You carry on. If they want, they allow you to be tackled by the Muslims. Funeral company or the casket, right? Like the case that happened in Paris. Remember, G was sharing about the body was delayed for 2 hours, 2 days, sorry, for 2 days, and then the way and how they wash and shroud is not the same. And that's where I told her, I said, of course, this is where you need to also remember that we have four school of thoughts, and worldwide is being used. So in all probability, like in some country, like in Japan, I have Japanese students, they were sharing also, in countries like that, normally the casket is run by in Indian people, who are more accustomed to the local ways on how they do it. So I don't see any problem, if they want to. Okay, if the children, right, insist that okay, they have to be washed and do it everything in the Christian manner, and the children is a Muslim, it's fine. It's fine. No, I have a situation where the children is a Muslim, the parents are not. I ask them to join in. They don't want. Because in certain race, you need to understand they are superstitious. They cannot be touching the dead.
Mm.
So I don't think so. For European, I don't think so. You have such a problem, right? Huh? That you cannot touch the dead body. You cannot touch, alhamdulillah, so it's even better, right? You don't have to be worrying so much, but if you can touch and they want to be participating, right, let them do so, because what is important, at the end of the day, we have that body, we manage to wash it, shroud it, pray and bury, that's all.
Alhamdulillah. I think we have heard from Ustaz. We have covered a few questions, unfortunately. In fact, there's many more questions that we could go through because due to the time, right? The time factor. Now we have reached about 50 minutes. I do apologize if I've extended some of the time because I wanted to get the answers direct from Ustaz so that you can address some of your queries. Okay, since you guys are here. Inshallah, if I cannot answer some of the questions that you guys posted in the chat, I will post this question to start specifically, and the answers will be given to the page. Right? Either you want to do a video or you want to just give you an answer based on some context. I leave it to Ustaz. We will talk about it later, inshallah. So do write your feedback in or PM us, okay, under Ask Ustaz page. To give an opinion whether you love the Zoom session or you love the StreamYard session, live session. Give us your feedback, right? Give us feedback, inshallah. We are still want to fine tuning what are the what are the best possible, how can Ustaz address some of your question personally, in fact, right? I would love to thank again Nicola, Azra, Ustaz, and those who have tuned in. Inshallah, we will have some event, we have some session like this soon, inshallah, in the next 2 weeks.